Singer, songwriter, and dear friend of Limit Break Radio, Susan Calloway announced a live performance on July 15th at 20 Front Street, Lake Orion, a groovy suburb of hometown Detroit, Michigan. Known to the FF community as the voice of Final Fantasy XIV theme songs and Distant Worlds concerts, Susan is currently working on her own music and recently released her single, Time for This. Her live and unplugged performance promises to be soulful, inspiring, and a hangout with her fans. Tickets are only $15 and can be found at susancalloway.com. More tour dates and cities will be announced soon.
All right, let's hit it!
Oh my God, what is this?
A new era dawns to fill the void. An unfamiliar path with a pulse of its own.
3, 2, 1.
Final Encountercast. Interesting conflicts, not conflicts of interest.
Typical corporate bullshit.
With your hosts, Nate, Robbie, Chris, Nika, and Callie. FinalEncountercast.com.
Ready? Get set? Go!
What's up? Welcome to Final Encountercast. Glad to have you guys along. Twitch.tv/Limit Break Radio starting at 1 p.m. Appreciate having you here. FinalEncountercast.com is the website. Make sure you head on over there and subscribe to the podcast. You can find a full archive of our episodes, 70 of them in total. This is episode number 71. And if you want to check out all of our past episodes, you can go do that over at FinalEncountercast.com. You can also look us up on Apple Podcasts, a.k.a. iTunes, formerly iTunes. So right off the start of the show here, we wanted to check in with a live event that we've sent a couple of our Checkpoint Radio hosts, including Callie. He's down there today. And joining us live by phone, we've got Norris from Checkpoint Radio. What's going on, Norris? How's it going?
Chilling, man. There's high energy out here right now, and it's a great event right now.
So you're down at the Microsoft store in Troy, Michigan, at the Somerset Mall, actually a mall that I used to work at. And there's an event going on down there with HyperX and Jonas Jerebko and the Detroit Renegades. Norris, tell us about what's going on down at the Somerset Mall today.
Yeah, so basically there is sort of a play against the pros type of event going on. They've the CSGO team, the Overwatch team, and the Smash team from Detroit Renegades here, all down at the Microsoft store. And it's pretty lit, if you want me to be honest, man. A lot of people are playing against the pros, getting smashed against the pros, obviously. Myself and Callie actually played a couple games. I went 3-3. He was, of course, rubbish. But it's really awesome. We got a chance to talk to Jonas Jerebko and get his insight on what it's like to own an esports team and where he sees the future of the industry going.
That's pretty amazing. What's the turnout been like down there at Somerset?
You know what? The turnout is actually pretty good for something that kind of was sent to us as a low-key type of event. A lot of people are just kind of walking past and then coming in and checking it out, and the energy is really, really positive. And there's also a lot of fans out here who are really excited to meet not just Jonas, but also the esports players involved. And the fact that they made it kind of a play against the pros really, I think, is something that maybe should happen a little bit more frequently. Maybe it's something that they could turn into a monthly thing, because if it can become a little bit bigger, then it can go back to that kind of regional branding we were talking about on many shows previously. So it's a really good event.
Yeah, I think what's kind of important to note is that, I think we've seen events like this go down at like LAN arcades or, spaces where it's normal to play games against one another. But the Microsoft Store is kind of a pretty unique location. What is the Microsoft Store done in terms of like setting things up and setting up stations to play at that they normally wouldn't have set up for something like this?
Yeah, so what they've actually done is they partnered with HyperX, of course, and they brought out kind of some mobile consoles, some Xbox Ones, and set them all up in the back area of the store where they have a really big screen where if you're just walking past, you actually will see people playing against the pros on the big screen. They've got it set up professional style, so everything is controlled by a game master, and the setup is actually really, really cool. Right now they're doing some raffles, giving away some HyperX equipment and some t-shirts, headsets, keyboards, stuff like that. So the Microsoft Store is really actually, I think, in my opinion, come out and kind of let me know that they really support not just esports, but are willing to partner with individual organizations. I think that's really cool. Yeah,
it is really cool, and just another kind of step in the evolution of esports. Now, Norris, if you had just been a random person walking by and you had seen this, would this have inspired you to stop and go, oh, what's going on here?
Oh, without doubt. I mean, we have a little bit of operational knowledge, because you walk in and you kind of see the esports jerseys, with all the branding and whatnot. So just by seeing that, you kind of walk in and go, this is interesting. What are these guys all about? And you see kind of the Overwatch being played on the big screen, which is something that, again, is out of the ordinary. And you just kind of pop in and say, I wonder what's going on. And once you get back into the thick of things and really see what's going on, yeah, I definitely could see why somebody just passing by would pop in and check it out.
That's awesome. For any of our Detroit listeners, you can stop by today. That's at the Troy, Michigan Somerset Mall. That's the Microsoft Store in there. Hang out. Joe and Norris are out there, and they'll be out there for a little while longer today, and as well as meet the members of the Detroit Renegades, Counter-Strike Go, Overwatch, and Melee teams. And again, that's all out at the Microsoft Store in the Somerset Collection. And you can also meet NBA player Jonas Jerebko. So that's another cool opportunity. Norris, thanks for your time today. Appreciate you checking in with us. Norris Howard of Checkpoint Radio. By the way, I also wanted to compliment you on the segment that you hosted this week. That will be everyone should definitely stick around for today's airing of the Checkpoint Radio show, the actual radio show, because Norris hosts a segment and it's just out of this world. So
awkward.
Way to go, man. We appreciate all the hard work, and thank you guys for going out there and doing that. Norris Howard, again, check him out at checkpointradio.com. And again, thanks for calling in and checking in with us.
The coolest thing from that for some reason never really popped up in my head is this idea of playing with the pros. Like when it comes to esports, it's no problem. You sit down, you play some games with some guys. You don't often see, hey, come play with a pro NFL team, because you will literally be crushed.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, you'd go home.
I mean, to be fair, I'm pretty sure most people are getting crushed in Overwatch and Smash.
Right, but not physically crushed.
Yeah,
emotionally crushed.
They're not taking their spleens home and having to use a colostomy bag for the rest of their lives.
That's fair.
So anyway, again, thanks to Joe and Norris out there doing that, and you can listen for those interviews with the members of the Detroit Renegades as well as NBA player Jonas Jerebko on this week's episode of Checkpoint Radio. Good. The demons
are back.
The demons are back. That's good. I'm so happy about that. So a couple of things that I wanted to talk about before we get into the news here is I'm glad that we started off with Norris and talking about Checkpoint Radio, because there is something I do want to talk about for that relates to Checkpoint, and that is we're getting into the point of Checkpoint Radio where we need to concentrate on growth, and we've been very fortunate here at Limit Break Radio, between Final Encountercast and Limit Break Radio, to get your financial support over at patreon.com/Limit Break Radio. And I know that you guys are so enthusiastic about these shows, but what we need to do here with Checkpoint Radio is that we need to grow the social media profile, and we need to grow it fast, because one of the things about shows like this and endeavors like this is that we need a lot of people to be following on the Twitter pages and the Facebook pages in order to be able to convince advertisers that we're worth investing in. Now, obviously, there's organic growth, and then there's inorganic growth, and we don't want to step into that territory of inorganic growth where we're having to pay for follows or things like that. That's all really shady, but that's what a lot of companies will end up having to do to be able to support their model. When you have advertisers that come to you and go, yeah, well, I don't know about the efficacy of your show based on just a handful, couple hundred of followers that you have on Facebook or Twitter. That's, I think, a really poor litmus to be judged by. But unfortunately, that is the currency that we are judged by.
Almost every business nowadays is judged by that, which is really ridiculous.
It is, and it's frustrating too. I think
there's so many sponsorship things, even through cosplay or anything in general. They're like, well, if you don't have at least this many followers on Instagram and this many likes on Facebook, sorry, you're not applicable for our sponsorship.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And those types of things are really frustrating and difficult to navigate. And the thing is that there are so many different competing places that have way bigger social media profiles, because either they the thing is I don't.
The shitty thing is when you pay for but when you pay for likes, they're just fake likes. They're just people that click likes and they get paid to do it,
right,
and they don't interact with anything. So while you have the like count, your post reach is actually a lot less than it would have been with a few hundred followers.
Right, and that's the thing, is that we're so concentrated on things like organic growth that's really all we really want to provide. And so we want to encourage anyone who hasn't yet to just go and hit the like and follow button on our Facebook pages and Twitter pages. Check PT Radio on Facebook and Twitter. Wow, the lights are really
they're going nuts today.
They really are. And it's so, again, and that's another situation that is so frustrating, because again, I've made 4 different calls about the fucking electricity, and no one has gotten back to me. And it just drives me nuts. But anyway, what I was saying about Checkpoint Radio is that, look, we just need your likes, we need your follows, and we need you to help spread the word. Tell your friends. Because here's the thing, is that, this is not just exclusive to Final Fantasy games or a Final Fantasy audience. This is applicable to anyone who plays video games at all. And we know that you guys have a ton of friends that play video games, and indeed that there are a few of you out there who may run Twitch channels, or who may run YouTube channels, or who might run your own podcast. And here's the thing, we want to encourage you guys to really help us grow this thing, because it's an opportunity that I don't think anyone else in video gaming even has right now. The idea that major media and the video game media are being bridged is a pretty unique one, and hasn't really been tried on this scale since something like G4. I mean, that sounds like we're like we're making a way bigger deal about it than it is, and we kind of are. But to my knowledge, IGN, GameSpot, none of these guys are trying to syndicate 2 hours worth of video game talk. They're just growing their online presence. Their YouTube channel or their digital content brand or whatever it is. So having an opportunity like this is really unique, and it does rely on your support and spreading the word. So here's the thing: if you've got a Twitter account and you've only got 10 people that follow you, I'm going to charge you with getting all 10 of those people to listen to Checkpoint Radio. Like, that's your goal, right? All right. If I want you to take everyone who is in your social media circle, your sphere of influence, and I want you to share Checkpoint Radio with them.
Shove it down their throats.
Until they
don't hurt them.
Maybe a little hurt.
Just don't leave
visible bruises.
If it's between consensual adults, a little bit of hurt is okay. Yeah. Anyway, but just share the show. We want to try to grow. We want to try to get as many people listening to it as possible. We want to make sure that you guys are listen to and subscribe to the Checkpoint Radio podcast feed. We are starting to podcast our news segments as well as the podcast. This week's podcast, a lot of fun. This week's podcast was so much fun. We talk about the cardinal sins of gaming, the things that game developers do that absolutely just drive us nuts and piss us off. And if you want to hear that exclusive conversation, that's available over at checkpointradio.com. All right, so that's been about 20 minutes of talking about things that aren't Final Encountercast, and maybe if we get back on track with Final Encountercast, the demons will let the show be. Maybe.
Doubt it.
I doubt it too. Let's check out what's going on in the news.
I'm here to do the news tonight.
And that's the way the news goes.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt this program to bring you important news.
Here's a story that's out of this world.
So since Callie's off playing with the pros, news duty falls to me today, and we start with ZeniMax officially being sued over advertisements for Fallout 4. Many of the commercials use Dion DiMucci's The Wanderer, and he apparently wasn't a fan of the dystopian game using his music over depictions of murder and violence. Allegedly, the contract signed gave DiMucci right of refusal on the commercials, which he was never granted. He was never able to see before they went on, and he is now suing for over $1 million. He says that has he seen these prior to, he would have pushed for them to have depictions of survival in the wasteland as opposed to violence in the wasteland.
This is a strange story, not only because Fallout 4, that marketing campaign happened so long ago that it's surprising that it's taken him this long to kind of be on the up and up about it. Maybe he wasn't sure
how he should handle it.
I don't know.
Now he's decided to sue for $1 million. That's a good way to handle it.
No, I think probably what happened was, unless he's like really keeping up on how are they using my properties and stuff, probably wasn't actually brought to his attention either by a fan, friend, family member, something like that until recently, and now he realizes, oh, that's the type of game that they're using my song for.
Yeah, I mean, he probably assumed that they would bring it to him when it was finished, and so I don't think he was actively looking out for it. Like, if he thought he was going to have right of refusal, he was probably like, okay, when it's finished, they'll show me and see if I approve. Mm-hmm. And they obviously didn't do that.
This is not like an Alex Maurer situation where it's like someone who feels like they were wronged is going to kind of try to.
He signed a contract, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and the contract did give him right of refusal. Yes. He's saying that the ads were never sent to him. And if they weren't, then I do think that ZeniMax does legitimately have a legal problem here.
Yes, and he did try and get in contact with them. They never got back in contact with him. That's why he's now pursuing.
Dude.
Why?
What?
Like
Bethesda. What are you? What the fuck?
But that's the thing. It's not actually Bethesda. It's ZeniMax that is responsible here.
Well, who is when it comes right down to it, who's responsible for the marketing? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I truly don't know if that is Bethesda or ZeniMax. He's suing ZeniMax because that's the company with the money, right?
Well,
Bethesda,
the parent company too, I believe.
Yeah, that is the parent. Yeah, and that was the publisher, and that's who you do. That's who you sue in
this case.
In this case, right?
Absolutely.
I don't think he would sue Bethesda, but I wonder who was responsible for making that decision, because there's someone either at ZeniMax or Bethesda whose job it is to make sure that got sent back to him.
Yeah, someone's definitely going to be in trouble.
Fucked up.
Somebody fucked up bad. Bad.
To the tune of $1 million.
I mean, it's a drop in the bucket, let's be honest. But, you know, he's got a point. Like, I can't hate on him for this. Like, he's actually got a pretty decent point.
Yeah. Doomfist is finally making his way into Overwatch. Currently up on the public test realm, he seems to be defying a lot of expectations, partially in that he's an offensive champion and partly in that he's not voiced by Terry Crews after all.
I think that's the most disappointing part.
It is.
That's what I've seen. I think the most disappointment about is that Terry Crews is not his voice actor.
Okay, actually, no. I'm glad they didn't choose Terry Crews for this, because if I'm not mistaken, like, Doomfist is actually like a different nationality than what Terry Crews is. So I assume they got someone from that appropriate nationality to voice Doomfist.
Yeah, I mean, the character does have a serious sort of nature to him.
Yeah, and he's not Terry Crews at all.
Yeah, he's the leader of Talon. So they went with, like, the lore approach. I'm sure that if they, get a character that's suited to Terry Crews', style of voice acting, that they would definitely throw him in there.
Probably.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm. The University of California in Irvine has expanded their esports scholarship program to include Overwatch. After a successful showing, the TESPA series, and widespread enthusiasm on campus, the school will now be offering a $2,500 a year scholarship to students who make the team. Students will have to participate in 15 to 20 hours a week worth of practices, events, and tournaments.
This is pretty interesting because, we've talked a lot about, especially on Checkpoint, these college programs that are popping up all over England that are talking about the different business aspects. And here, this is $2,500 that you can get per year of scholarship by just being super good at video games.
Yeah, there's a really stark comparison, I think, to how they seem to be focusing more on the education, the skills that go into managing and making sure that the esports scene overall works. And then over on our side, it's all about playing and winning.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, that sounds about what I'd expect. Yeah.
Five Nights at Freddy's creator Scott Cawthon has come out and said that he is scrapping the work on Five Nights at Freddy's 6, instead wanting to focus on other projects. He claims that the pressure to make the series bigger and better with each installment has made it impossible to get any fun out of developing anymore. However, like the boy who cried wolf, legions of fans of the game don't believe him and think he's trolling.
Yeah.
Butthurt, man.
Yeah, that's what I think. I mean, I'm not even a fan of Five Nights at Freddy's. I've just watched all of the videos on Game Theory. And yeah, I think he's trolling.
He does a lot of stuff like this, like before, and ends up like putting stuff out earlier than usual.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Well, I hope for the fans of the series at least that's how it ends up being, because this could end up being the Half-Life 3 of these guys. Never gonna happen, because he also said that he's not gonna tell anybody like what the sixth one was even gonna be about.
I just don't even see. I don't even see that. Like, I don't even want to I don't even want to believe it a little bit, because he's done this so many times.
Okay, so if this is true, how long until people finally start to realize, oh, maybe we aren't getting a Five Nights at Freddy's 6?
I mean, they're gonna
have to go through the 6 stages of denial.
No. I mean, it's like, that's the thing, is that it's going to happen in the middle of the debate, and no one's going to expect it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, people are still going to be working themselves through the anger phase, and they're going to get halfway through, and Scott's going to go, "Yeah, here it is."
Let's hope so, for their sake.
I mean, that's just like I said, it's happened before.
Tencent came under fire last week for their decision to limit the playtime of children on their mobile game Honor of Kings. Children under 12 are only able to play for 1 hour a day, while 12 to 18-year-olds can play 2 hours. The game is unrestricted after 18. Massive backlash at the decision led to a 4% drop in market share, which comes out to about a $12 billion loss. What? However, Tencent stuck to their guns on the decision, and this weekend their stock started climbing back up.
Wait, so they limited it to children, and that was perceived as a bad thing?
Yeah, children under 12 can only play for an hour a day. 12 to 18, 2 hours a day. And yeah, 4%, $12 billion loss because of that. From one game.
Who was backlashing against that?
Well,
parents wouldn't be.
I don't know. I don't know. It depends, because if you need your kid to stay just focus on something else and out of your hair, and now it's only an hour's worth, and you have to find something else. Imagine you're being out trying to shop around, trying to get errands done, and mommy, my game won't work now after just an hour, and you still have another 4 hours of errands to do. Mommy, my game doesn't work. Why doesn't my game work?
So you throw on some awful Peppy Pig.
I don't want Peppy Pig. I want Honor of Kings. I've seen this play out at the retail store that I worked before. This doesn't work. I want this. Well, why don't you watch this? Play this. No, I don't want that.
Well, then you get the backhand.
You don't give in to your kids to specifically. I mean, it's hard to say, because
when you're not a parent, yes, because most parents don't look at it as giving in to the kids. They look at it as, I just want some peace and quiet, whatever it is, to shut them up.
Yeah, but but I
also see that the backlash could be that the game is trying to parent for them.
Yeah, that's
more than letting them parent their own kids, and I think that could be part of it. I actually allow my kids 2 hours of games a day. That's our rule. So why are you parenting me?
I mean,
that kind of thing.
But I mean, it's at the same time, it's the same idea that you could program into the game with currency to restrict things. You know what I mean? The games are actually really good at doing that, where they'll build a restriction, and especially mobile games do this a lot, where they'll build a restriction where now you've either got to wait a certain amount of time where you can play again.
Oh yeah, I have a ton of games that have 5 lives, and once you lose, you have to wait a few hours for them to recharge.
Exactly.
Or you can buy them.
So in the same way, this is like running out of a finite resource that you're given. Whether it's you're given 100 tokens at the beginning of your play, or each action it takes 45 minutes to complete with whatever, you know what I mean? You can find different ways to do that, and I think that this is actually way more upfront by saying look, we're going to restrict your kid to an hour.
And this isn't but you can pay for more hours. It's literally they just think that kids shouldn't be playing that much.
But this also seems like it would be really easy to get around. I don't know at what point you put in your age or how it determines what age you actually are, but how easy as a parent, if you want your kid to just be playing more to get out of here, or
you
for
just
whatever
set
reason.
Your age.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, no, he's definitely over 21. Here, play now.
Yeah, see if you. Yeah.
Or but what's wrong with a game company having an option instead that has a parental option in the options that just says, after how much time do you want the game to block your kid, and you can put 3 hours.
Yeah, you're right. Having the option, that's fine. I think all games probably should have that option, but probably what caused the feedback here is that it wasn't an option.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was forced on them. So then it's now you're telling me how to parent my kid.
Yeah.
I think that's probably part of the issue.
Well, maybe you should parent your kid better.
All of them, Nika.
All of my 50,000 triplets.
Yeah, how many days have you taken off? How many episodes have you taken off? That's how many kids you have.
Yeah, I know, a lot apparently.
That's
sometimes I've had twins. I think
infinite,
just never ending.
Just a constant stream of kids coming out of your vagina.
Okay. A graphic from the Nerdist has compiled.
They're waltzing out with top hats now.
Please continue.
A graphic from the Nerdist has compiled.
Bring them back in.
A map of the United States showing every state's favorite video game character. Some notable ones: Mario in Michigan, Freddy Fazbear in a good bit of the Bible Belt, Master Chief in Texas, and Sephiroth takes the West Coast.
Is that surprising to anyone else?
Is Freddy Fazbear a Muppet?
He's the
he's the Five Nights at Freddy's.
Which they are Muppet type looking characters, but they're not from the Muppets.
But they're super scary looking.
They're animatrons, like Chuck E. Cheese.
Who's the who's the guy with the fucking glasses?
I don't know, some anime
Master
dude.
Chief.
Nika, could you help us here?
Maybe.
Is that Dante? Is that supposed to be Dante?
Oh God, that better not be Dante. Come on, even I know who Dante is. There's no way that can be him. But why would they have used an anime picture?
Wait, where?
In Alaska and New Mexico.
That's Helsing.
Yeah, but Helsing's not a video game character.
Sure he is.
From what?
I'm sure there's some awful video game that's an anime or from an anime that features this.
What? No, Nika, is that true?
I have not heard of a Hellsing video game.
I haven't either.
But it's possible because there are a bunch of there's Fullmetal Alchemist video games, like there's all that. So it's
but like enough to be the favorite game character of fucking Montana.
Okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the anime came first. Therefore, that character should be dubbed as an anime character, not a video game character, just because they have a video game.
It's Moxie, like 4 different states. I don't know. I think
Moxie in the chat saying that it's Alucard. Did whoever made this infographic get this confused with Castlevania's Alucard?
Oh, that's possible then maybe. They just like Googled Alucard and that's who came up.
Oh, Jesus. Then and here we think we look stupid.
Lots of Sonics just like randomly distributed all over the place.
Sonic's kind of all over the place.
Well, Sonic's in the areas where there's like not much to do, so they just have to hurry to furrydom, so that's why there's Sonic there.
Nathan Drake is like somewhere, I think he's
Minnesota.
Rhode Island. He's also Minnesota. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And Tomb Raiders, Wisconsin.
Yep, Lara Croft, Wisconsin. That makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
A lot of Bowser's up over on
surprising.
the East Coast.
Bowser's a little bit surprising, I gotta say.
But the thing is, this comes from Google search data, and I have a feeling the reason that Castlevania is so high right now is simply because of the anime that just came out on Netflix.
I mean that might be true.
Like,
it is
Google
quite
search data. Like just because people search Mario doesn't mean that it's there.
It is kind of a painfully stupid metric to use for something like this. Tracer is over there and
also just above Texas,
Massachusetts, maybe. Yeah.
Why isn't she naked?
Oklahoma. Yeah, also over in Oklahoma. Who is
that dude next to Sephiroth in California? Like Nevada, is that?
That's Kratos. That's Kratos. That's Kratos.
From God of War.
I'm curious, who the fuck is Florida? What is that? What the fuck character is that? Does anyone know?
Is that that's not
it's a little bear thing.
That's not a yokai watch, is it?
No. Yokai's cuter.
Can't even see these things.
If you click on it,
part of the problem.
Oh no, it's League of Legends. It's the little guy.
Teemo.
Okay.
Ratchet and Clank.
Clank?
Ratchet and Crank. I want to see that game.
Ratchet and Bank.
Okay. Rocket League is celebrating its 2-year anniversary and released some numbers in celebration of the event. In addition to having 33 million players lifetime, they're seeing over 1.6 million people log in on average daily.
What?
All in all, 1.5 billion matches of Rocket League have been played with over 6.9 billion goals scored.
This game is free, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
okay,
that's fine.
That explains it.
Kids no dick.
I mean, I don't know. Like, am I missing out on Rocket League here? I mean, I'm like, it's like cars and soccer.
No, I don't.
No,
can you afford a game?
I can.
Okay, then you're not missing out on anything.
Fair enough.
Do you think you're missing out on League of Legends?
No.
All right, then.
Yeah. I mean,
another game for poors.
Part of me feels like maybe I am, but like I'm okay with it though.
These games are for Bernie Sanders supporters.
What?
Wow.
What?
Where did that come from? Because they're poor. Because they're poor.
Yeah, because they're poor.
Okay.
Pokemon Go's 1-year anniversary is here, and there's a small event going on to mark the occasion. In addition to a new anniversary box in the shop containing 6 incubators, 6 max revives, 2 raid passes, and 20 ultra balls for 1,200 coins, Pikachu's wearing Ash's hat from the anime can now be caught in the wild until July 24th. In addition, that Pikachu may be evolved into a Raichu wearing the hat, and Pichu can be hatched out of a 2K egg wearing it.
Oh,
this is the dumbest.
I caught a Pikachu. He's so cute.
This is the dumbest event. Like this
really
may this
but
may
it's way
be
better than the birthday hat Pikachu.
That's true.
That one was
I'll give you that.
But this is the problem that I have with it. Okay, is that box? It doesn't feel like it's a deal. Right?
Oh no, I wanted to buy that. I was like 1,200. No, never mind.
Yeah, only someone completely stupid and retarded would ever buy that box once, let alone twice.
I didn't buy it twice. The game was stupid and made me buy it twice.
Oh, so you bought it twice.
I clicked on it once and it's like, request cannot be processed. Try again. So I'm like, oh, okay.
So you try again.
Bye. And then it's like, all right, bought it twice. Damn it, man.
Wait, you have 2,400 coins?
I had 26, I think.
Here's the thing, though, is that, I mean, if you can use every single item in there,
yeah, I mean, sure.
then it's fine. You know what I mean?
If you're okay with buying it up front.
The revives are negligible. Well, yeah, that's the thing but it's not that much of a reduced price. Is the thing? If it was even 10,
if you're gonna drop $12 in something, then you should get a pretty hefty reward for a free-to-play game.
Just between the incubators and the raid passes, if you bought those individually, you'd be spending $1,100 anyway. So essentially, it's the revives and the ultra balls for $1, which that itself, okay, that would have been a deal. But the only reason to buy it for the incubators and raid passes is if you're going to buy them anyway and you want to spend the time. You don't want to spend the time clicking on it over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's
yeah. I mean, if they had made all of that for wait, what is it at right now? It's
1,200.
Yeah. If they'd made it like 1,000 or 900 coins, I feel like that would feel a little bit better. Deal.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I bought one as well. It's not terrible. I mean, because I needed the incubators, and I didn't want to sit there and buy all of
buy
them.
7 of them, then be like, error, here's 13.
Yeah,
get out of here.
You're the only person that happens to.
No, I've had that happen.
Remember when he was at
you two then?
Remember when he was at negative coins?
Yes, I had negative
coins.
I had negative 460 coins, and I actually emailed them, and I was like, Niantic, how is this possible? And they're like, yeah, you got double charged for an item, so you're gonna have to like spend money.
Oh my god, that's what they ended up saying?
Coins back up.
Yeah.
Oh.
I would have been like, no, I'm gonna be negative forever. Fuck you, Niantic.
I mean, if I was okay putting the game down and never picking it back up again, that's probably what I would have done. I would have been like, yeah, all right, for that you just gave me $5. Fuck you, Niantic.
But you can't do that.
No, but I'm in too deep.
You're too far gone.
I'm in too deep.
That's called addiction.
We also got a map this week showing what Pokemon each state is most looking for 1 year into the game. Many states are sensible. Michigan is seeking Dragonites. California wants Snorlax. Florida's still searching for Mewtwo. But we have to have a word with Nebraska. Really? Paris?
Paris.
Paris.
They want to go there.
Where did they get this data from? I'm curious what
we actually received this data in an email from what I would assume is some type of Pokemon-related contact, that from E3 or something, because we all got it. All the Checkpoint people got it. And it was basically, it showed the most searched for Pokemon around the time of the game's release, and then what the most searched Pokemon is now, a year into the event.
Now, again, we don't really know what
search for on
means.
Google.
Yeah. It says where is or how to find with all the Pokemon in the game, and then measured that. So I mean, apparently Virginia is following in your footsteps, Captain Kabuto.
There's actually a couple that have Kabuto in there.
Yeah, I mean, Kabuto is really rare out here, as besides from that event. Like, I can tell you that when that event happened, there was a bunch, but otherwise, I have never seen a Kabuto out here.
Smeargle? Smeargle.
He's not in the game yet,
Montana?
guys.
Montana.
They're still looking for him, man.
Well,
you've got to find him.
Was he Gen 2 or Gen 3?
He's Gen 2.
He is Gen 2.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So they're not sure how to do the sketchability yet.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like Ditto. It's like Ditto from
was
Gen...
on there for some states, though.
I mean...
I can tell you, I have not caught a Ditto in months.
I caught a Ditto today.
I caught one today, yeah. Yeah, that's what we're talking about, idiot.
Yeah, I caught one today, too.
Yeah, we all caught the same one. Anyway.
Was yours a Pidgey?
I think so. I don't remember. But yeah, like there's definitely some really interesting ones in here. Fucking
Illinois is looking for Mew. Like, come on, dude.
Like, but that's the thing is that like it feels like there's just some that are like clueless about the game.
Yeah. Well,
you know what I mean? Like Louisiana and Illinois looking for Mew.
Yeah, legendaries probably should have been excluded.
Yeah, Florida looking for Mewtwo. Yeah, I definitely think legendaries should have been excluded.
Is that Bulbasaur in Texas?
Yes, it is. That is Bulbasaur in Texas.
Oh my God,
you losers.
Eevee in Alaska and Hawaii? Really?
They don't live
Maybe they don't get them out there.
Maybe, but I feel like
look at Wisconsin. They want Vulpix?
Vulpix, that's
really?
a weird one.
That's what you want to do with your life?
It's really cold
Vulpix
up there,
is
okay?
kinda rare.
They're looking for the Alolan Vulpix.
No, Vulpix is not rare at all. I see them. Oh God, I see them all the time.
Since the
I see
fire
Growlithe
event,
all the time. I don't see Vulpixes.
I see them a lot.
Yeah, so it seems even to a certain extent, certain regions even still have like a lack of certain ones because we see lots of Vulpix, not so many Growlithes anymore.
I think that's kind of interesting because there is a bit. I mean, because of the biomes and the way that nesting works, yeah, that there does seem to be some areas and regions that just don't get certain Pokemon.
I mean, remember,
hardly
Nika
ever.
used to always complain because she never sees Drowsies, and like here,
No, I never see Drowsies.
Drowsies were insane.
Jinx.
The only time I've ever caught Drowsies, I think I maybe caught one or two outside of that one very first Ghost event at Halloween. Other than that, I've maybe caught one or two Drowsies.
Wow.
Maybe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Adi Shenkar's new Castlevania series dropped on Netflix and seems to be getting pretty good reviews. We've also learned that Shenkar's next project will be to work with Ubisoft to release an Assassin's Creed show.
Oh, sweet. I can't wait for this. Is it going to feature Desmond?
It can't be any worse than the movie, right?
No, that is a pretty low bar, isn't it?
Yeah, see, I've always felt like video games as shows would be better served as like series specials, rather than just like a single movie or something.
Sure.
So, especially if they're doing an anime style, then you're not limited by any of the, real life factors or whatever. So, I think that this could work. I don't think that they should follow the stories of the Assassin's Creed. I think they should make like their own
continuity.
their own continuity or whatever, or use completely new
That's
characters.
what they tried to do with the movie.
Did they? I got through 10 minutes.
It wasn't a character that was in any of the games.
I thought they used Desmond.
What is what's the new Castlevania series relationship to the canon of Castlevania?
I haven't watched it yet.
Does anyone know?
I don't know. It does use the characters, though.
It does. It does use the characters.
Even
I don't know where in the canon it falls.
Even if I fucking watched it, I don't know enough about the Castlevania canon to know where it, like what its take on the material.
Well,
is.
I mean, after seeing how the comic book movies have started to get more popular by not necessarily following exactly what the origins or what comic books have done, because I mean, there's 75 years worth of stories, and to just kind of make sure that you're staying true to the character but go about your own thing. I think that that's the most important thing, is just staying true to the characters, principles and stuff like that. And as long as you do that, if you want to create your own new canon or events, I think that you're less likely to anger people that way, because at that point when you're like, look, we're doing something new with the plot and stuff like that, people can't go, well, that's not how it was in the game, because it's like, well, duh.
Well, what about a timeline where Batman's the villain and Joker and Harley are the good people?
That's happened.
I know.
Okay.
So anything can happen. Comic books prove this. So video game movies, do whatever you want. Yeah.
I mean,
okay.
If you're gonna take liberties with the canon, like, that's fine. If you're gonna establish your own timeline or your own unique story, make it separate, that's fine. All of that is fine.
So long as you stay true to the character, I think is what people are usually what's most important to them.
Right, yeah. As long as you don't take your main character and change every aspect of them, I think you're fine. I think you're right. Like, using the characters and kind of the broad strokes of the characters as
faithfully as you can.
Yeah, as faithfully as possible. I think that's important, but yeah, I don't know. I think
it's the reason Man of Steel was so hotly debated as being terrible, because he didn't seem to give a crap about. I mean, destroy half of Metropolis, kill Zod, but Superman never kills. Nah.
I mean, there is baggage that does come along with things like upholding the canon. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because if you're dragging that legacy along with you. And you don't live up to people's expectations of what their memories of the original are. I mean, shit, just look at how much damage George Lucas did to the Star Wars brand for almost a decade.
Well, yeah, because if you try to stay, true to the canon, to the actual plot itself, not just the character as well, but you start changing some stuff, well, then who's to say what can be changed and what can't be changed? At that point, you're just taking liberties for yourself, and I think that's very disingenuous to the fans.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. All right, yeah.
Photobucket has managed to piss off just about every one of their users. They quietly implemented a shift in their policies, changing from a free service to a subscription service that runs about $400 a year. They released a news article talking about the changes, but did so quietly, and the changes were near the end of the article. Importantly, the sudden change is leaving many users with broken links and a photo suggesting they upgrade their service, effectively holding photos for ransom.
Yep.
People who have complained have since been allowed to either subscribe or migrate their photos off-site.
$400 a year.
For what was essentially free to begin with.
It was free. Yep, I've been using Photobucket for years.
Fuck.
Why?
Not anymore.
Why would a company think this is okay?
Why would you use Photobucket ever when Imgur?
Well, okay, yes. That should even be something that went into Photobucket's decision, right?
With Photobucket, you can make albums and sort things.
Like someone
you can do that with Imgur.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I thought it was just a drag and drop thing. I've never.
Someone somewhere, knowing that Imgur is a possible competitor for them, was like, "Hey, let's start charging our users $400 a year." Yeah, that sounds good, Frank. Good idea.
Well, look, we have 8 million users, so if even like an eighth of them continue with our service, that's like $33 million in a month. That makes sense.
The guy who came up with this plan should have been the one thrown out the window in the board meeting.
It is a really like the fact that they tried to do it quietly, and I mean, like, I bet you I can almost guarantee you that there's probably going to be some users that get auto signed up for this that didn't know about it
or not sure what they're doing,
and then they'll see that $400 charge from Photobucket and lose their goddamn minds. Rightfully so. I mean,
at that point,
that's crazy.
You just do a chargeback and never use them ever again.
Yeah,
and then use that money to go buy the Assassin's Creed Collector's Edition
or the movie series.
Just buy the rights to the movie series because it's like $400.
Well, I mean, maybe a little bit less. You could probably get like McDonald's afterwards.
For more information on the news and other stories, you can message Nika right now. Intels on Twitch.
Please.
Anything you want to know about, ask her.
Anyway,
I will give you a really horrible answer, so go for it.
Yeah, we used to run a live blog for the show, but not anymore.
Nika's our live blog.
Nika, you're not on Twitch.
That's right, because we're allowing individual people to ask us questions. Anyway, look, if you want to give us a call, Final Encountercast on Skype, 810-207-1764.
I would actually really encourage you, once you hear what this topic is, to call in, especially if you fit any of these demographics, because we're going to need some opinions here.
Yeah, I think so. So there's this study that is being kicked around, and a lot of news organizations are really latching onto this. We've got 3 that came out this week, one from the New York Post, one from CBS, and one from the New York Times. I'm not going to be surprised if we start seeing,
even more
nightly news segments about this kind of shit as well. But there's a story that's been published out of the University of Chicago. Or I'm sorry, this is from a graduation speech from the University of Chicago, and the paper is being released by the National Bureau of Economic Research, and the economists that have been working on this are Eric Hurst, Mark Aguirre, Mark Bliss, and Kerwin Charles. Now, Mark Aguirre, if I'm not mistaken, that's a name I've heard before. And if I'm not mistaken, because I did a lot of academic writing about MMOs my last 2 years of college.
Sounds fun.
It was. Until you start reading other people's academic opinion about video games. And this is one of the names that I'm pretty sure I'm familiar with that, with that process, and I think this guy has been on this train of trying to blame video games for society's woes for a long time. So this study is claiming that the reason that young men are working less hours than they did in 2000, because that's the comparative study.
It's 2000 to like 2004 or somewhere within there, and then the past few years.
The reason for that is because video games have just become so fucking good.
So predictable.
So I'll take a minute to take that in, that young men are working less because they'd rather play video games.
That's not wrong.
I would rather play video games than work.
Right.
But who wouldn't?
Duh.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure even people who don't really care for video games would still, depending on their job, most people would rather play video games than go to work. Like, that's just...
Thing. That seems like a kind of a no-brainer to me, right?
I would rather have fun and just sit on my couch than go to work every day. Like, duh.
Yeah.
But
I mean, maybe I could stand if you really wanted me to stand, but I really just don't want to go to work.
I can't see you standing.
So the study cites figures like by 2015, American men 31 to 55 were working about 163 fewer hours than a year. In a year than that same age group did in 2000. Men 21 to 30 were working 203 fewer hours a year. One puzzle is why the working hours for young men fell so much more than those of their older counterparts. The gap between the two groups grew by about 40 hours a year, or a full work week.
This has nothing
on
to do with
average.
video games. I've got to say. Like, what the actual fuck?
Well,
if they had said that people 30 to 40 are working less than the same people did when they were 20 to 30, okay, maybe I could see a correlation here. But if you're comparing 30 and 40-year-olds of the generation before us, and then 30 to 40-year-olds now, they're not going to completely blame the fact that millennials have so much more debt and so much more are required to have so much more experience to even get an entry-level job, and they're not going to blame the workforce. They're going to blame video games.
Well, here's
they can't look inward, Nika. They have to look outward. Okay.
Here's what they're comparing is what people are doing with their free time. In young men ages 21 to 30, we've seen a statistical change from between 2004 and 2007. Your average total leisure of 61 hours were being spent with video games. And between 2012 and 2015, that's risen to 3.4, which is the most significant statistical change.
But what was
younger women didn't change at all, and older men went down by 0.1. Older women rose by 0.1, but all of that's negligible.
What was other pastimes that were high up on the list then?
Basically, people were asked to break down what they spend their time doing in a day.
Yeah,
Eating,
optional
sleeping,
sleep,
emailing.
Right. Recreational computer time, TV, socializing, and other leisure
And
activities.
it should also be taken into consideration, too, that the time spent playing video games, if you were playing mobile games, don't count towards that, because mobile games are usually played while doing something else.
Right.
And they also don't count like Facebook time or time spent on social media sites.
I feel like social media kills a lot more people, especially if you want to put women into that demographic. There's a lot more social media that's killing time.
Well, and that's one of the things that they pointed out was because, I mean, according to, I think it was Twitch, for example, 41% of women make up, the gamer population, and why they didn't seem to be affected by it as much is they posit that women play more like mobile games and they're gaming as they're doing other things as well, as opposed to sitting down and just being like, all right, Call of Duty time.
But not... But you just talked about Twitch's demographic, though. People on Twitch aren't just playing mobile games.
That was just to point out the difference between women gamers and men gamers, like how much the demographic they make up.
So,
right. But if there are women gamers on Twitch, they're not playing mobile games.
Well, no, they're not. I didn't say that any of these articles were smart about it.
Clearly.
Well, but yeah, that's the thing, though, is that when you look at some of these other statistical changes, in younger women ages 21 to 30, you've seen a statistical rise of 1.8 for optional sleeping, eating, and personal care, which clearly means that women are just being fat hogs now.
Clearly.
It's true.
I actually have a theory on why this is only affecting men and not affecting women. I think that the women are behind this, right? Because how long now has it been that women don't get equal pay in the workforce, right? So
not very long.
That's what I'm saying. So it's not that women are working harder because they have to make more money, because men already make more by doing less work.
There we go.
If women can't make more than men or as much as men, let's just take the men out of the workforce. Then suddenly women are making the most.
That is a really not correct way of looking at it.
Okay,
because men have the luxury of working less and making more money, whereas women have to work harder to make the same amount.
Okay, fine, Nika. If you want to work all the time, fine. You can work, and I'll stay at home playing video games, standing up if you want.
But since it's talking about young men, I don't even... a lot of this isn't saying that men make enough money that they can work less hours,
right?
Because if you look at the workforce,
they're trying to blame video games, and if that was the truth, they wouldn't be able to blame.
Right, like for example, stagnation of wages. I mean, so there's so many people that just can't make enough money to support themselves. They end up living with their parents, having roommates or whatnot, can't find full-time jobs, and so are you sure that maybe people are just playing video games because they have the time to?
Right. Yeah, that's sort of what I think it is that this is really reductive logic on the part of the people who are conducting the survey, because it stands to like. There's a recession. There was an entire recession that this country is actually still kind of recovering from.
Yeah, and like young people are having trouble finding jobs. So what are they going to do instead? Just stare.
That's exactly what I was talking about, is that like the data here doesn't account for things like baby boomers staying in jobs for 10, 15, 20 years longer than they were expected to, partially because they're having 10, 15, 20 year longer lives than they expected to 50 years ago. But at the same time, like, you can't ignore these these Gen Xers and these baby boomers who end up sitting in these positions for 15, 20 years and don't give opportunities to anyone coming in to replace them. I've been working in fucking radio for like 17 years now, and outside of Checkpoint, all I have is a part-time job. That's all I have. If I was only doing the work that I would go to, to the station to do, I'd be logging 25 hours a week at most. And to me, that's fucking like I'm 33. I'm 33, and the best that you have for me is a part-time job. Well, that's kind of why we've done the whole thing with Checkpoint, to take some of that into our own hands and to take that responsibility into our own hands and to become entrepreneurs. And for someone like the fucking New York Times, or for this study really to draw these fucking conclusions about how, young men are dropping out of the workforce to play video games. No, how about the workforce is so fucked at the moment, that the job market is so fucked at the moment that people
they've got their data backwards. They're saying that video games are causing less work. I think less work is causing more video games.
Right. Yes, that's exactly it. That is exactly it. And it also doesn't talk about the litany of opportunities that exist around video gaming right now. You can make a livable wage off of Twitch or YouTube by just making gaming content. You can make a full-time career in media. You can launch a full-time career in media through things like Twitch and YouTube. Do not sit here and tell me that investing yourself in video games is a waste of fucking time. Not when we're talking about scholarships that you can take up, not when we're talking about professional esports teams that are hiring people on for huge fucking contracts, and not when you're talking about an esports industry that has billions of dollars being thrown around in it. I'm sorry, I don't believe it. I don't buy it for a fucking second.
But wait a minute. How come the older generations are still working? Why aren't video games affecting them?
Well, maybe it's because the entire system was set up to benefit them and people their age, and they can just navigate it because it's easy for them.
Not to mention that they can't really just suddenly drop out, because they actually have families and stuff that they have to worry about.
They also know that if they quit their job, the job market's so bad they probably wouldn't find another one.
Hang on, before we, I'm sure we've got a lot more to say here, but I want to rant about these motherfuckers with families that just sit around.
Those guys, man.
Yeah. Fuck them, and because they just sit around.
Whatever, you bitch!
They sit around in positions that they don't deserve, and they just use their kid or their family as a fucking excuse not to be fired and not to be thrown out on their ear. So you have to wait. You have to sit around and wait for them to make some big fucking infraction before you can fire them, and that is so frustrating. That is so fucking frustrating.
In some cases, I may or may not know a person, but in some cases, you've developed such a close relationship with the people you work with or work for that now you feel bad actually using that infraction to do so because they have a family to take care of.
Exactly. Yeah, I like that happened to me. I got passed up for another fucking promotion.
Well, maybe you should start a family.
Go put a baby in someone.
Because this guy had a fucking kid. Who cares? Who fucking cares?
So gullible.
I understand not being so quick to fire someone over that, but giving someone a promotion over someone better qualified,
way better qualified. Way better qualified. Who's doing a nationally syndicated radio show in 18 fucking markets and producing the whole fucking thing?
Out of
this
his
guy,
back pocket.
Who's doing a podcast once a month? Maybe. I think this guy. I think that's all he has to.
The other guy, you mean?
The other guy.
Yeah. Fuck that other guy.
But anyway, just going back to this study. I think that this is incredibly reductive logic, and I think that this just really sort of scapegoats. This is really, I think, just looking to scapegoat why young people in this age bracket are just not being hired for the jobs that they deserve or are qualified for, because that, I think, is happening in a much larger and more alarming quantity, as opposed to, I'm lazy and I just feel like playing video games instead of going to work.
But if this is a problem with the job market, why aren't we seeing the same statistic relate to women? Why aren't women playing video games if they have more time?
Because they're not good at video games.
Because the women are on social media and other things that they're not counting.
Yeah, I feel like
if you kind of the amount of time spent on Instagram, Facebook, that kind of stuff, the women would be very
okay. So if this was flipped so that it was women, it would be that taking selfies is leading to women dropping out of the workworkce.
Yes. Basically. And I've actually seen...
You heard it from Nika.
Kim Kardashian does more damage than she knows.
That's the type of articles we'd be seeing. I'm pretty sure that I've seen articles like that, like the rise in narcissism and selfies is causing people to like suck at life.
Totally.
But this is a rise of social media.
But again, this is more. Let's find something to blame that's not the actual economy or any job practices for why people look at work the way they do. Like again, I think about the way that I was treated at work, and the way that my parents were treated at work, and the way that my grandparents were treated at work. And I feel like our grandparents' generation, they still had the context of the Great Depression to understand why unions and why workers' rights were so important to fight for. And then they had children, and all of those fucking entitled baby boomers came in and they said, sex, drugs, rock and roll, man. And they fucking snorted all the cocaine, and they saw Wall Street one too many times, said greed is good, and fucked the entire middle class for the bulk of 25 fucking years until all of their parents' generation were dead, and now all of the workers' rights are gone. And so now we get fucking stripped out unions that are filled with corruption. We get basically no protection for workers. You get no protection for the employed. If you have a disagreement with your boss, it's basically your word against theirs.
Preach it.
And how is this? And so fucking avocado toast is my fault. Like, yeah, that's the reason I don't own a home. It's not because
you killed Applebee.
It's not because you haven't been systematically fucking this economy for the better part of 30 years because you think greed is good and you didn't want to leave anything tangible for your fucking kids to inherit.
But capitalism is good.
Well, here's the thing is I really hope that us as a generation comes to a really educated and middle ground point of an opinion about the way that we treat our elderly. All right? Like, I think as a response to this that we should shut down funding to old folks' homes, and we should put those motherfuckers out on the street. Those are the people who should go without homes. Those are the people who shouldn't have economic support. And let them die in the street instead of our mentally disabled, instead of our fucking poor and systemically poor. Let's instead of taking care of the burden that is these old fucking people, let's just remind them what their opinions are as we shove them out into the cold and let them fucking die of exposure. Fuck that shit, man. Like, all of you boomers who have sat there and just systematically sold off every bit of leverage that we could as as workers in a situation bring to the fucking table, man. Like, you should be ashamed of yourself. And I don't know why we should care for you as a generation when you didn't care for us or our environment or anything fucking else, man. And this is just emblematic of that shit. Don't blame me, blame yourself. You're playing too many video games. Well, you know what? You still sound like you're my fucking parent and I'm 11. Really? It's my fault that I don't make enough money. It's my fault. Okay.
He's best.
Sure.
Who wants to top that one? I think we have some callers on the line.
Let's go to our phone line and talk to Diamelos. What's up, Diamelos?
Okay, I don't know how I can follow that, but
good luck.
My first question is, who paid for the studies?
The
first thing you learn in any statistic class is correlation does not equal causation.
Right. Yeah, this is the National Bureau of Economic Research.
Yeah, they're not doing a good job.
No.
I mean, because what was the comparison? The comparison was to when older people were our age, 20, 30 plus, and working in the same situation, right?
Yeah.
The first study was done when all of us were essentially in high school.
Right.
Yeah, back when low-skilled, high-paying jobs were abundant.
Right.
All over the place. Nowadays, the only low-skilled jobs you get are retail and service industry stuff. There's nothing else. There's literally nothing you can really do without a college degree.
There's a lot of those that are hard to get into. Even still, they're like, yeah, but you have no experience working with customers, so we're not going to put you in customer.
When was the last time anyone got a raise that wasn't from minimum wage increase or a promotion?
Never.
7 years. Retail before I started, or almost 7 years retail before I started. I worked the last 2 in college, but I never got a raise. I was working $7.25 or whatever the minimum wage was at the time, pretty much that entire time. I never got a raise.
I had to jump jobs. I had to jump organizations.
I donated plasma when I was in college.
I mean,
because that is how I could afford pasta for
now hold on, this is a different rant, but why is it called donating plasma if you're getting money for it? Shouldn't it be selling money?
No, you get compensation for your time because it takes like an hour. That's how they phrase it. Especially because
but you're selling your plasma.
You're not selling it. You're donating it, and you're getting
money
for your time because it's in higher demand than blood.
So if I sell you this pen for $60 that happens to have tickets on it, that's not scalping tickets. That's buying a pen, Nika.
Well, yeah, that's actually, I mean, dude, from a legal standpoint,
technically,
yes.
That's how people sold 11 accounts.
I mean, you're not wrong. Anyway, but like I think that's a pretty good point. That when the best that you have is going to work every day at Sbarro in the mall, or trying to make that same amount of money through Twitch subs or donations or whatever, like it almost becomes a no-brainer.
The worst thing is the people working at Sbarro in the mall probably have at least bachelor's degrees, and they can't get a job in their field because of the job market.
I just graduated this last May, and last month I started a 40-hour a work week job. Like, I got really lucky with the offer that I got, so I jumped on it.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Since the
that doesn't happen very often.
Took effect. Part-time workers can't work more than 30 hours.
Right.
Yep.
You are capped. You are capped at 30. And that sucks because it used to be 40. And because I used to be able to get 35 hours a week, and now I'm down to 25 because
we can't give you health benefits.
Of course not.
Yes.
Of course not. And that's another thing is that, when you don't have any kind of like long-term investment from a company that wants to keep you there, like health benefits, I've had jobs trying to shame me into staying at a position because they treat it as like, oh, you're going to go work for this other place. Well, yeah, they're offering more fucking money.
Dude, that happens. You're
not giving me benefits. You're not giving me anything. They're offering me more money, more hours.
And the thing is that every job is doing this right now, and it's horrible. Like, I have a friend who's in teaching, who's in a private school and wants to go work for a public school, and the private person's like, well, we'd be so sad if we lost you, and we really want you to stay. And she's like, well, I'm going to go. Can you give me a reference? And they're like, no, you're not organized enough. We're not going to give you a good reference. We're like, but you're begging me to stay because you like me so much, and now you're telling me that there's all these things wrong with me, so you're going to give me a bad reference
because they want you to stay. They're gonna that's what's fucked up.
And every job is like that right now, and they're manipulating young people.
You don't get rewarded for good work. Right? Like if you do good work through an organization and you explain, listen, I really like being here. I'm gonna appeal to you for a raise. I really want to be able to stay here, but in order to do that, I have economic factors that I have to be able to take care of. I can't keep struggling to pay my bills. I can't keep eating ramen every week. Can we either talk about a raise? And if that's a no, then you know what? If you do good work, you should be given a fucking glowing review, a glowing letter of recommendation. That's the least that an employer can do. And how many times has it happened where you do great work, the employer doesn't want you to go, and then they're not going to, like Nika said, they're not going to bother writing you a letter of recommendation because they know if they do, they're more likely to lose you.
Okay, but do you have a family?
It's hard. She doesn't. And the thing is, I think it's hard to get a job without your direct supervisor's letter of recommendation. So then now what? Now she's fucked and she's screwed into staying there.
Okay, well, not to mention that nowadays, Diamos at the beginning of the call mentioned that the only place that you can really get jobs, entry-level jobs now is service industry and retail industry. And most retail companies, like for example, the one that I work at, you're actually not allowed to give letters of recommendation. If someone calls in and wants a recommendation, you direct them to the HR department,
who definitely know you.
Yeah. Now, obviously, it varies from person to person. Like my manager, she's actually really, really cool. She works around my checkpoint schedule. If I need time off for like events and whatnot, I get it. Like she realizes this is a shitty job, and if you have the chance to go and do more, you should. When I worked in the service industry as a bartender, you don't get raises there. There were people that have been there for 5, 6, 7 years, have never gotten a single raise, and for a place that boasts a family-owned environment that cares about you, they would specifically, when I was trying to work 2 jobs, they would specifically schedule me on days they knew that I couldn't work before just to create a problem.
Yeah, that's another thing that I've experienced way too often is that, employers will go out of their way to try to make you having a second job or even a life or a regular schedule a problem. For as long as I can remember.
Because heaven forbid you get 40 hours a week through 2 jobs.
Right.
It's funny. It's because it's kind of like they're like jealous or they're trying to just hog you all for themselves, but then not actually give you what
they just don't want to have to work around you.
No, what it is, this is
you're not allowed to work for them. You should just be loyal to us. But fuck you for giving. We're not going to give you any hours.
This is actually a management technique. Okay, this is and it sounds a bit like a conspiracy, but it's not.
Is it? Sure.
It's not because I said so.
No, but
also families are shit.
They are shit. But the technique is that if you keep your entry level workers in a chaotic schedule that they can never really depend on, then they're not able to hold down second jobs, and you can more easily keep them at their current position. And the thing is that it happens at so many fucking places that I cannot actually believe that someone didn't get up and actually advocate for something like this at some point.
Are you sure that that's not like part of management school when they go to like extra classes to like learn how to be management?
That's what I'm saying. Yes,
because they teach them this.
Well, because I got
conspiracy to me.
Like I got a little taste of this when I was the desk manager at Merrill at CMU, because what they reinforced was this firewall, this barrier between management and your workforce. And what they did is they sat around and stroked your ego for 45 minutes and told you about how you were so much better than everyone who worked for you. Then they reinforced how everyone who worked for you was absolute shit and that you are the only thing that keeps them from fucking everything up. And then they get to the point of what they wanted to talk to you about for that session. And it was such nonsense that I called it, like I would sit there and I would be so disruptive to the process that they asked me to stop showing up after the second one.
Nice.
Like they said, don't come. And I said, well, but I really want to. I have questions that I really want to answer. And they're like, no, you're being disruptive. And I was like, wow. I'm trying to understand how to manage my workforce. They knew they couldn't fire me, right? Like, they knew they couldn't fire me because these were optional in the first place. And I was just showing up to kind of be a dick. Like, it was after the first one where they sat around and reinforced how much of a division between management and staff there is. And I went, wow, no, the fuck, that's fucked. That's so stupid.
I got to be a manager by saying, okay, I'll be a manager.
Right.
And then someone else did too, and then they were also a manager.
But it was like I'd be like, hey, so my co-manager was sleeping at the front desk the other day. Like, what do I do about that? And no one would give me a practical fucking answer for that kind of stuff.
Get rid of the TV in the lobby.
Fuck off. That was the dumbest shit. Anyway, so no, but I did see that type of attitude being reinforced even at that level, and it made me go, "Fuck, man! What are these like manager retreats like? Like what kinds of behaviors are they reinforcing on that kind of stuff?" And at some point, you do end up drinking the Kool-Aid. Like at some point, even if you start off going, "I don't think that this is accurate," at some point, if you keep being exposed to it, you do end up drinking the Kool-Aid.
Once you get into the cool kids club, why not?
It really kind of does feel like that, and
that's why it's called Kool-Aid. Because it makes you cool.
And it's frustrating. Thank you, Diamolos, for the call. We appreciate it. If you want to call up, Final Encountercast on Skype, 810-207-1764.
I'd like to get someone who like legitimately believes in like the opposite side of this, but it's a gaming talk show, so
yeah, you're really gonna be that's gonna be difficult to find. What is going on with our follows today? I've been sitting here like in the background, I'm just watching the follows, just like every minute or two a new one's coming up. And
is this problem?
No, I mean it's not a problem. We've
already got almost, I think, actually over 50.
I mean, it's confusing to me because no one's saying anything, and I don't know if we're doing something right or if we're doing something wrong. I just don't know.
We're always doing something right, though.
Little column A, little column B,
a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Anyway, love to hear from you on this Final Encountercast on Skype, 810-207-1764. Do you agree that the reason that apparently young men are leaving the workforce is because of video games?
Well, I mean, to take into account like all that stuff that we just outlined, right? That's what it's like to work in America nowadays, right? Unless you're a baby boom, unless you have these legacy positions, right? If you're out looking for a job, that's what you have to look forward to, okay? And for me, this is the way that I've always looked at it. Because if I had like a family, right? If I suddenly had like a couple kids popped out and like I need money now, then I'm probably going to end up working, those 3 or 4 part-time jobs to make sure that the people that depend on me stay fed, right? But so long as it's just me, yeah, I'm not going to put up with all that bullshit for what, next to nothing? I would rather work part-time and guess what? Sit at home and play video games. But that's not because of video games. That's because of the environment that the workforce is in right now.
And again, like my hours are forcibly capped. And I don't think that that's that odd. Like that's not odd for someone our age where you're like, hey, I'd love to work 60 hours a week.
No, but then we'd have to give you benefits.
Exactly. And I think that's more emblematic of the problem is that this is an entire generation of people who are not being supported with healthcare, that are basically being told to buy their own.
With what money?
Exactly. And yet somehow I figure out the $140 a month that I pay for my health care. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, $140 every month.
That doesn't cover specialists.
Doesn't cover specialists. Basically, I have to pay $25 for a doctor's visit, and most of my medicines are pretty cheap. That's about it.
That's good, at least.
That's about it. I don't go to the doctor very often, so...
I had one time, even with my insurance, that one of the medicines was like $80, and I'm like, I don't need that one.
Yeah, the only thing that's not covered is my heartburn medication, which has been frustrating because I feel like that's been contributing to at least somewhat of my voice problems.
The throat stuff. Yeah, I'm just going to burn it right out, man.
Yeah.
Might as well drink acid.
Right.
Well, I mean, you don't really need your voice for your kind of work. So, wait, exactly.
Literally,
but the only
all
thing
he needs.
That's the only good thing about you.
Let's go back to our phone lines and talk to Luke. Luke, thanks for calling Final Encountercast.
Hey, nice being here.
Thanks.
Love listening to you guys.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. What's up?
Yeah, this article though, it's total BS, man. If you look at the data, they're just looking for a scapegoat. The United States Department of Labor, their data, it's been on a downward trend since the 1900s. That's how it's been, except for a small dip where it increased in the 2000s, and there was less hours per week in the 1970s. What are you gonna do? Blame it on Pac-Man?
Right.
Damn it, Pac-Man.
Right. Yeah. Those damn kids in their kite flying. What? I don't know. What did they do in the fucking 70s?
One of the things as an
fall off roofs. I don't what the fuck did you play in trash? I'm pretty sure that's what a lot of my dad's stories were. Was
playing in trash.
I grew up in Pittsburgh and we used to go swimming down in the chemical hole, and I'm like, Jesus Christ,
chemical hole.
Well, that's pretty much what it was, because it was this man-made lake that was made with runoff from mining, and it's you used to swim in that? Jesus Christ! You think about how many chemicals are involved with things like fracking, it's got to be something similar. Man.
I'm pretty sure that Carlin actually had a bit where he talked about swimming in like the Hudson or whatever, and how that can help built up his immune system. He's white blood cells normally have the 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out. Nah, my shit's walking around with AK-47s and landmines.
Yeah, that is definitely a Carlin bit. But I think that this study is complete and total nonsense. And the thing is that what bothers me is that the paper or the National Bureau of Economic Research seems to be advocating for some kind of outcome here. There's definitely, outside of the the University of Chicago graduation speech where they cite the statistics, it seems like coming to this kind of conclusion really is trying to finger a problem, right? You're trying to name a problem in society as if someone or society at large is going to do anything about it. And what I think that this is more emblematic of is the greater economic woes that exist in our society today, and I think that it's emblematic of how prevalent video games are in the consciousness of younger people and people who are growing up. Because again, it's not, I think that the surprising statistic is not how much free time there is, it's how much is being allocated toward video games. So you take this and spin it in a different light. You take it and just look at it with a slightly different angle. And I think that what you can see from data like this is young men are spending less time with TV shows, movies, and the internet, and spending more time on video games. And in some large part, that does have to do with the fact that socialization is done through video games now. So you don't need to put those two separate things into compartmentalized boxes. You don't have to do, oh, well, hey, I feel like a shut-in today, so I'm going to stop. I'm going to put down the Genesis controller and I'm going to go have a drink and try to get laid or something. You know what I mean? Instead, people are doing that socialization online, intrinsic in the game itself.
Getting laid in the game.
Some people, some people do. Hey, come on, man, and not just
where I met my husband.
Yeah, and not just stupid cyber sex either, but I'm talking there are Nika, people who meet their spouses and their girlfriends and their significant others, whatever it is,
really, really sad people
through video games and things like that. So I think that aspect of it can't be downplayed. I think that does have to be acknowledged. But again, the New York Times walks away from this saying I feel like that article was man, and this is a real big problem.
That was probably the biggest offender, because as an outside observer, what can I appreciate about the 3 articles is they each do sort of take a different stance on it, draw different conclusions. But yes, you're right. The one from the New York Times specifically definitely takes this big, this whole, like, it harkens back to like the 90s when they were death simulators. It's like, video games are back and they're a problem.
You're right. Yeah. And but again,
the New York one.
Go ahead.
Is like, sorry.
No,
the New York one is like PlayStation slaves. That's what it calls people who play video games.
Some of the words and like the metaphors and stuff that they use, like, yeah, they're straight up trying to start like a witch hunt. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and pretty disappointing that would come out of the New York Times, because really it does. It takes,
but not all surprising.
No, not that surprising. But it is disappointing. Again, I have not read the original National Bureau of Economic Research paper, mostly because I don't think it's published yet. But I don't know what their conclusion is that they draw. But this data is definitely being thrown out there as what seems to be, well, this is conclusive. Like the one, I think the headline that I think was the biggest offender on here was the New York Post headline saying, "We're losing a whole generation of young men to video games."
Yeah. The
come fucking on.
The second article from CBS, I think that did a little bit better job of sort of just like looking at what's there.
You know why? You know why? Because CBS has GameSpot and Giant Bomb. They've got a dog in the fight. They've actually got skin in the game.
Yeah, so they don't actually like really draw or point to any specific conclusions. They actually end the article with a quote by Hearst that says, "We feel like there's a need to pass judgment, but I don't think I have a judgment on it. Suppose we go to a world where you can make yourself happy with very little cost. Is that necessarily a bad thing?"
I mean, what? Wait, what?
Because one of the things that it's points out too is that not only are obviously men, doing this, spending more time playing video games, but they're happy to do it, right? They don't seem to care that they're not working or advancing in life because they're playing video games. And I think that that's one of the things that, like the New York Post is sort of pointing to as being a bad thing, is that they're wasting all of their time on video games with no, they feel no need to go any further than that.
Let me ask you a question. The fuck are we supposed to do? What the fuck actually are we supposed? Should we be rioting in the streets? Because
that doesn't help.
Because that's worked. Yeah, Occupy Wall Street. That helped.
You should hit the pavement and work harder.
Oh, yeah, because that's gotten me fucking anywhere. Because working...
Hey, that made the people at the top of the corporate ladders a lot more money, so keep doing that.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
You're making money for other fucking people. And it seems like this is more a reaction to young people taking up the challenge of finding some kind of employment for themselves that doesn't rely on some dude in a suit signing their fucking paycheck, right? Like, I think that that's the admirable part about YouTube and about Twitch and about the entrepreneurship in our generation.
Which the people who did this study are paying no mind to.
No attention.
They actually mentioned in one of the articles that the video game industry was like a $21 billion industry or something like that.
Right.
Okay, and all these people are playing video games, like, and now, because they're playing video games, they're going to have no prospect for the future, not realizing that stuff like YouTube, stuff like Twitch, stuff like emerging esports are prospects as well that are contributing to the $21 billion.
That's just a hobby.
The people writing these articles are the ones of the previous generations, and they're salty. That's what it is.
Luke,
and they don't have any connections to the current generation of what's going on.
Yeah. Luke, thanks very much for the call. We appreciate it. If you'd like to chime in with your thoughts on this, 810-207-1764, Final Encountercast on Skype. You can call in and let us know how you feel about this most recent study saying that young men are more likely to want to play video games than they are to want to work. I'm also gonna take umbrage with this quite personally. Because
this was us a few years ago, playing video games instead of working.
Yeah, and now look at me. Like, I really want to be able to stream. Like, I wanted to stream yesterday. Didn't have the opportunity to. Had to, clean up around here to make sure that it was presentable for you guys, or at least somewhat presentable for you guys. And I was working on podcasts, stuff for Checkpoint. And that's the thing, is that as the opportunities have started to grow through what we do through Twitch, through YouTube, through our podcast, it creates more work. And I'm the type of person where I'm not motivated by the reward. I'm not motivated by the money. If I was, I would not be working in radio. I would not be trying to make a podcast, into a radio show. If I was motivated by money, I would have been out of here a long time ago doing anything else, because this does not make a whole lot of money. I'm motivated by the work. Like, I think I'm one of the few people who just loves the fucking work. I just love the sitting down and editing a show, or sitting down and recording a show. It's the process of doing the show and actually performing it that is my favorite fucking thing. And if dude, my allocation of like how much I do work and how much I either play video games or do other stuff or have leisure time in general, right? Like
lower and lower.
it's way more work. But the problem is that I don't largely think of what I do as work. It's not hard work, and it's work that I enjoy. So it doesn't end up feeling like work. And to other people, it doesn't end up looking like work. You know what I mean? And so I think that there's a little bit of judgment, and that little bit of judgment is right in line with these fucking articles too. And I think that's why I react so poorly to them. There's
no physical exertion. That's not really work.
And it's not even that. I don't think that people are even saying that. It's that they think that playing video games has no benefit or has no it just feels like this is a study that was written by people who have played video games for a couple of times, but they don't really understand the appeal, and they're just looking for the most convenient thing to blame. Like in the 80s, this would have been violent movies or movies in general, right? Like, men have more leisure time. They're reading more comic books. Like what's cheap and easily accessible in terms of media and entertainment.
What's gonna get us clicks?
And like, dude, I think this is fucking insane. I think this is a fucking insane conversation. I think that this is an insane logic leap to draw, and I think that this is insulting. I find it incredibly insulting to have to sit here and from another fucking source be told that well, you're just the source of your own fucking problems. I'm sorry. No, it doesn't work like that. You don't stay the source of your own fucking problems for 30 fucking years.
Chris, you gave me a funny look over there for saying they do it for the clicks, but anyone who has that fear in their head, older people, video games are taking stuff away, are going to click on that, to read it and go after their kids.
Oh,
and anyone,
Nate was talking about something like back in the past, and I was like, they do it for the clicks. It's like, well, back in the day, it was do it for the newspaper nickels.
Yeah, it's still the same.
Yeah,
same thing.
You know what? That's the other thing, is that what? This is all coming from places like CBS and New York Post, New York Times.
And like even people who don't believe in this stuff, like us, guess what? We're still clicking on it and reading it so we can be angry at it.
Well, but the thing is, hey, how's your business model working out for you? Are you a multi-billion-dollar industry? I didn't think you were.
What happened to your
Not
magazines?
Anymore. Yeah. What happened to all your wonderful print your print establishments, and journalism, all of that shit, and again, hold on, and again, while every word is not copy and pasted between all three of these articles, this is largely the same report that's being reported on by three major media news sources. I need to know what the Bureau of economic bullshit, fucking. What is it? There you go. The national. I need to know who the PR person for the National Bureau of Economic Research is, because they need to be representing us. Because I want to get coverage in the New York Times, CBS, and the New York Post. What the shit? Like how do you for Checkpoint? Yeah, I'd love to. I would love to get coverage like that.
Even if it's a bad article, right? anyone who goes and looks at the article is probably going to go and check out Checkpoint, then realize, oh, actually, you know what? This is actually pretty cool. I'm going to listen to this after all. Anyone who doesn't, who thinks, yeah, this is shit, wasn't going to listen to us anyway.
But again, like, you know, how is it that this one report that was mentioned in a University of Chicago graduation speech that hasn't even been published yet makes the rounds at, like, and I guarantee you, if you search for this, for articles like this, I guarantee you that there are so many more news stories and outlets that have been taking this data and running with it.
Well, I'd like the the Bureau of Economic Research to I'd like to get a hold of them and be like, when was the last time you did any research into the people who are actually playing games and the types of incomes that they're making off of those games, such as YouTube stars, Twitch people, stuff like that.
I think that should definitely factor into the data, especially if you're looking for anything recently. I mean, if you're comparing 10 years ago, before the age of Twitch and YouTube, maybe. But, I mean, I hardly think that that's fair.
Yeah, because a lot of those people, today who do have part-time jobs, who do have a lot more leisure time, are probably trying to make it on YouTube or on Twitch.
Right.
And you're right, it's probably not as much money as they would have going and working another dead-end part-time job. But, as you've said, they are happier.
Again, I think that this is a reflexive response from an industry who knows it's getting its ass kicked, in readership and in terms of eyeballs and in the attention economy.
People would rather read blogs than you.
Look at the way that all of these dudes jumped on blogs 15 years too fucking late. And now everyone's got a blog. Literally everyone, every place has a fucking blog.
I've had a few blogs over the years.
But again, like it's sort of like comedians having podcasts. Like, how many times do you hear about a comedian having a podcast and you're like, yeah, of course he does. Fucking of course he does. Like, every comedian's got to have a fucking podcast, just like every news organization has to have a blog. Just like every radio station needs to have a fucking website. Why do you need a website for a radio station?
You need them likes. Social media presence, because they tell us to.
It is, look, and that's the thing, is that we're experiencing this now where we have advertisers coming to us and going, well, why isn't your social media presence bigger? Because it doesn't fucking matter. Because we want to make the show. We want to focus on the content of the show, not the content of our fucking Facebook page.
That nobody reads anyway.
Yeah. Guess what? We were on a Facebook page in 2009, and so it's not going to matter. Like, that was the year, that was the one magic year where people actually searched for shit that they were interested in to like pages of on Facebook. Anymore, it has to be set in front of you, and there has to be a prize that you get out of it, and there has to be, there has to be so much shit that you have to set in front of people to actually entice them to hit that like or follow button.
Right, we're in the radio business. We want people on the radio to hear us and enjoy us, and go to our website and hear us and enjoy us.
Dude, okay, so maybe people at the beginning who heard the beginning of the show were a little bit confused as to why I was pushing, the social media for Checkpoint Radio so hard. And again, this right here kind of speaks to it too, is that, if you look across any of our other shows, you can see how much I value social media. Not very much. Like, it's just as a personal thing in my life, it doesn't play that big of a role. And I think most people who, are either friends with me on Facebook or follow me on Twitter, they kind of know that. Like, they understand that I'm not totally sold on this whole thing.
He uses Facebook to rave about Twin Peaks. That's about it.
That's about it.
Once a week.
And last week I had to take a week off because they didn't have a new episode. So I know, but my God,
thank you for that.
Tonight, 9 p.m. Oh, you know where I'm going to be. You know where I'm going to be.
Jacking it to Twin Peaks.
That's exactly where I'm going to be. Rock hard.
No high five for you.
Jacking it for the full 58 minutes. Fuck yeah.
Not running though.
Fuck yeah. No. I don't need the running when I've got the Twin Peaks.
Swing.
Anyway, so but again, like, I've never really harped on you guys as listeners or an audience to invest yourself in our social media or shit that we do on our webpage, like usually I'm just like, listen to the fucking show. Like, that's what I want. That's all at the end of the fucking day. At the end of the fucking day, that's all I want from you, right? Like, yes, we rely on your support on Patreon. But again, when we did that, like, we started the show that we wanted to make. We said, this is what we're going to keep doing. If you like it, give us money. And you can make sure that it's better. You can make sure that it's more regular and more often, and you can ensure that the people who you like being involved with the show stay involved with the show. Those were the only promises that we made. That's it. No promises about content. No promises about growth. Like, we had intention for growth, but no promises, because we knew we couldn't promise anything. When we had to stay flexible. And again, this is why I don't harp on you for social media, because it's not. I don't value it. Like, I think as a podcast and as a radio show, it should be an afterthought. But again, our profile to other places, to potential sponsors,
unfortunately relies on it.
Yeah. So again, something that I want to that I really want to encourage everyone to do is find Checkpoint Radio, Check PT Radio on Facebook and Twitter, and just hit that follow, retweet stuff. Help us build.
It may not seem like that big a deal hitting the little heart button or the retweet, but it honestly does.
It actually is. It actually is a way bigger deal than any of us really want to admit. Like that's the thing, is that all of us think that this is fucking stupid, but like, we also have to realize that that's how the game is played.
Yeah, not to mention Kooky puts so much work into that.
She does.
Yeah. So look, a like or a retweet, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. That's a like and a retweet for Kooky, guys.
That's right. Yeah, you may hate us.
Kookster.
You may hate us, but if you love Kooky, and you should love Kooky, then show her some love.
But we love Kooky, and if they don't like us, I don't know if that's promoting. I don't know.
Maybe head on over to Check PT Radio on Facebook and Twitter. All right, let's go back to our phone lines one more time and talk to Pat. What's up, Pat? Thanks for calling Final Encountercast.
Hey, guys. Long-time listener. First caller. I live in Denver, and I drive around. I see so many now hiring signs, like, on every single place, but it's, and they're talking about video games being the cause of these now hiring signs coming up and everything. It's like, no, that's absolutely not related. And I'm a conservative, and I love you guys. We're polar opposites of what we think on most things.
Sure, that's fair. That's fair.
But I was thinking about, like, universal health care and all this. The burdens that are put on employers, that, in a perfect world, that everybody could have their universal health care, but, 10 years ago, I didn't see as much of a problem with the millennial or those, younger people not being able to work.
Right.
And, a lot of it, I think, is because the employers are, cutting their wages. They don't give raises out.
No,
because they got these, they have to pay out, health care to their employees. They have to, if they have like over 40, they have to pay, benefits to people that, and all this crap. Like, there's a whole lot that goes on them. Not to be like, victimizing the employers, because they are assholes, but, there's that, but it's not, I just don't think, like, gaming is what you do when you're home. Like, where's the article that is like, the 20 to 30 males would rather stay home and watch porn than go to work?
I'd rather do that.
What's that? Like, it doesn't matter.
Right. Well, and I think that you bring up a good point too with talking about the the burden that is placed on employers to of the ones that do have to offer healthcare to their employees. I understand that it has gotten kind of expensive, and that is definitely a burden. But I think the thing that you got to remember was a lot of that in the ACA was a reaction to a almost entire generation in the workforce that wasn't being supported with healthcare because they weren't being given the positions to take. And it's again, it's the same thing that we see now. It's just a lot easier. I think it's just a lot easier to see now that just young people at that time, even 10 years ago, were not being supported with positions that had health care. And again, I cite things like Occupy Wall Street and the conversation around employment and young people's employment to kind of accentuate that anecdotal point. I don't have any evidence of this, but as just someone who lived through it and who spent I think at least 2.5 years of that unemployed. And working almost every day throughout college before that, I think that there are some environmental factors that were being responded to by something like the ACA that, businesses love to throw themselves up on the fucking cross and make them the victims of, I've got to pay so much for my employees' health care. Well, yeah, you fucking should. Like, you should be caring for your employees. And I think the fucking problem is that more employees aren't being cared for. And I understand that that's a burden on the business. And I don't know a good way to alleviate that outside of saying, well, don't place the burden on the business, place the burden on the federal government. But then you look at the fucking deficit that the government runs. I mean, there's really not a very good answer for this. But trying to say that video games are at fault or the people want to play video games more than they want to work and that's the reason why, I think that's incredibly disingenuous. I think that ignores a lot of really complicated factors that are at play here, and I think that that's just trying to shift the blame. It's just trying to shift the blame off of a more complicated and nuanced conversation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Pat, go ahead.
Oh, I was also going to say, I also have a very, very bad heartburn and stuff like that, and actually goes back into healthcare. When I was 20, I had to go, work 2 jobs in order to pay my own. I'm 34 now, but I had to work 2 jobs in order to buy my own healthcare plan, so I can go to the doctor and get it all sorted out and everything. But I had a tip for you. If there is this product called aloe vera by Nature's Way.
Okay.
It's just like a drink. And if you just drink it, and it's pretty good. It's really good if you get that heartburn that's kind of like you're throwing up in your mouth a little bit, like it's all the way up there.
Yeah,
you get it that bad.
Unmedicated, it can get that bad. Mostly, what it's weird. Because I've been taking, Pepsid and Prevacid and all these other different things, and I found one that works, and it's like it's the prescription strength, what is it? Omeprazole. And, and I, for some reason, it's like $200 because it's not covered through my insurance. So I'm stuck using the over-the-counter stuff. And the thing about that is that it works for the heartburn, but there's just a little bit of acid that'll sit at the top of my throat, and it burns my vocal cords. And that's where I end up getting the vocal fry from. And having to use my voice so often, I just feel like I don't get the same... I don't get a consistent quality out of my voice that I want to, and I think that's more along the lines of my concern. But thank you, Pat. Thank you very much for the call, as well as the suggestion on the aloe vera. I am going to check that out. I am definitely going to check that out. And also, since you're in Denver, please make sure that you check out Checkpoint Radio, checkpointradio.com, and that's on ESPN Denver 1600. Pat, have you heard Checkpoint yet?
No.
All right. There we go. So let's add one more to the Checkpoint Radio Army. And that's on ESPN Denver 1600 Thursdays at, I want to say, 10 p.m.
That sounds right.
I'm doing that off the top of my head. The other way, Pat, that you can hear it is if you stick around at the end of Limit Break Radio. After we wrap up Limit Break Radio, we will stream it here on the Twitch stream. So anyone who wants to hear this week's Checkpoint Radio, which, by the way, it's a really good episode. Like, I was actually listening to it in the car this week. I was really proud of this week's episode, I gotta say.
God, you listen to your own radio show?
I do.
Probably multiple times.
I listen to all the podcasts that we make too. I gotta make sure that it sounds good. I mean, I am
part of the Audiomancer's job.
I am the quality control here. So anyway, it's not like you guys would even know what to listen for if something was fucked up.
Half the time that he's like, "Oh, do you guys hear that?" I'm like, "No."
Exactly. Anyway,
me talking.
Pat, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Again, ESPN Denver 1600. That's Thursdays at 10 p.m.
9 p.m.
9 p.m. Sorry.
Pacific time.
Shit.
Apparently.
Sorry, 9 p.m. Anyway, all right. So I think that's going to do it here for the show today. It's getting a little warm.
It is a little bit warm in here.
Yeah.
Feeling it.
Chris is over there sweating that boy butter.
Ugh.
Oh, gross.
How do you guys think that tastes?
You would know.
No,
you would know
because
you took a body shot out of him.
No, because
no, I have reasons. If you'll shut up, first of all, the vodka killed all of the germs, and second
that's
of all,
that's what you need to tell yourself to go to sleep at night.
My germs are super powered.
Second of all, this wasn't during the summer; it was winter, and so he wasn't sweating boy butter.
That's what you think. I sweat boy butter all the time.
Anyway, guys, before we go here, I'm going to remind you one more time, check PT Radio on Facebook and Twitter. Please give it a follow and a like. You look for our posts. Help us out. Just sharing the show and spreading the show around really helps us a lot. The Checkpoint Radio podcast is featured right now on all of our RSS feeds. But starting next week, we're going to actually take it down from the Final Encountercast feed as well as the Limit Break Radio exclusive feed. So if you haven't yet, make sure that you subscribe either to the LBR podcast feed, which is all of the things that we make, or you can subscribe to Checkpoint Radio at checkpointradio.com. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. Thank you to all of our callers this week. It was fun eviscerating these articles with you. And I agree with all of your positions on this, that this is just reductive bullshit that is trying to scapegoat something that we all enjoy, something that we've taken time, allocated time from other things that we do in our free time, in our life, and decided that this is what we're going to do. And I don't think that that's something to be concerned about. I don't think that that's something to write an article about. I think that that is emblematic of the power of video games and the way that the narratives connect with us. It used to be that this kind of time was spent with TV shows or movies or other types of media, and now what we're seeing is that it's shifting towards video games, and I think that that is a benefit. There's a lot of benefits to playing video games that none of these articles want to talk about. It keeps your hand-eye coordination at peak.
Only thing that it mentioned.
Oh, it did mention that.
Yep.
Well, it keeps your cognitive abilities sharp. So we're going to be a whole bunch of old people with a lot of carpal tunnel and very, very sharp minds. And, there are even studies that say that it helps stave off things like Alzheimer's. So, these things these diseases that, I watched Alzheimer's ravage my grandfather to the point where he lost the ability to say words. He didn't lose his voice. He had his vocal cords. He just didn't know what words meant. And so he would walk around and click and whistle at people because he didn't know how to say words. He understood things, by the way. You could tell him things and you could see it that it was clicking in his head, but he just couldn't say anything. So these terrible diseases that ravage us like that, like I feel pretty okay insulating myself against that. And I don't feel like what is playing a video game hurting anyone? Like, how are you're not even hurting yourself. That's like the conversation around doing drugs. Like, doing drugs, you're not hurting anyone except yourself, right? Like this, you're not even hurting yourself. You're literally hurting no one. And so I have to wonder what the New York Times and the New York Post and CBS, what do they have? Like, what's their axe to grind here? Outside of
they need clicks.
Well, yeah, outside of being a forgotten medium for you.
That's all.
And just looking to ape the big guy. What are you accomplishing here?
That's it.
Anyway, thanks, guys, for joining us for Final Encountercast today. Again, thank you to all of our callers, as well as my crew. I want to thank Norris, who called in. Again, if you're in Michigan today, you should check out the event that is going on at the Somerset Mall. That's at the Microsoft store.
Is it all day?
I don't know when
it's over now.
Is it over?
I believe so, because I believe Volkai went there and no one was there.
That's a little sad. Anyway, thanks Norris for checking in with us from the Fan Day event at the Microsoft store in Somerset. Appreciated hearing from you, and I also want to thank the rest of my crew. Joe was out there; we didn't hear from him.
No, he was too busy
and we thank him for that.
But no, he was out there conducting an interview. If you want to hear that interview, that's going to be this week on Checkpoint Radio. But I also want to thank, of course, my crew who helps us every single week. Skuro, who is apparently he has to go to the airport again. I've never met anyone who goes to the airport as much as Skuro.
Okay, when you're part of a giant wine family, yeah, you have connections that fly and stuff.
I think what it is that his family lives so far away from him, he has to fly to get to them.
Okay, well, thank you, Skuro, for all you do for the YouTube channel. Kooky Persona, big shout out to Kooky Persona for all of the production work that she helps us with, as well as helping to organize the live call that we had with Norris. Thank you very much, Kooky, for all of your hard work, as well as my in-studio crew. Chris, Robbie, Nika, my name's Nate. Have a good one. Final Encountercast is a production of FinalEncountercast.com, Limit Break Radio, and Bender Media Productions. Today's episode was produced by Kooky Persona and Callie Sloan. This show is made possible by the generous Patreon donors of the podcast Limit Break Radio. Opening music provided by Keyboard Kid. More info and music can be found at keyboardkid206.bandcamp.com. Closing music provided by Sobsy. For more info, visit sobsy.bandcamp.com. Final Encountercast and its hosts are solely responsible for its content.